Olá, pessoal. Tudo bem? Welcome to the Brazil Crypto Report podcast, where we talk to the builders, entrepreneurs, and influencers from across the Brazil crypto ecosystem. I'm your host, Aaron Stanley, and today we're going to be talking about a developing situation regarding Binance in Brazil. Specifically, we have news that the exchange is now under investigation for allegedly offering illegal crypto derivatives products to Brazilian customers. Binance is obviously the largest exchange by volume in Brazil and also in the world. So this is a situation that has some pretty big implications. And to help us understand what's going on here, I'm joined by Cláudio Rabin, who is the editor of Portal do Bitcoin. And Portal do Bitcoin is one of the longest running Portuguese language publications covering the world of Bitcoin and crypto in Brazil. And Cláudio and his team do really great work. So would encourage everyone to read them if you don't already. And with that, I would like to welcome Cláudio to the show.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks for having me. I'm a little bit shy, and my English is a little bit rusty, so I usually don't like to do this kind of things, but it's huge news here in Brazil, and it's very important for the market. And anyway, thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you making an exception to your rule of not doing these things to come on the show here.
It's not a rule. It's just I don't know. It's
all right. Well, I'm flattered that you're joining us here. So thank you for
it's a pleasure.
Your time. Thank you for your time. So to get started, why don't you give us just a bit of introduction to yourself and Portal do Bitcoin?
Okay. Portal do Bitcoin is around since like April 2017, and I joined the team in March 2018. So it was like the bear market, in the middle of the bear market, and I have like expertise in journalism and in investigative journalism, and I worked in many outlets here in Brazil, like Folha de São Paulo, Veja, and Zero Hora. And I believe I am like the first mainstream journalist to go deep in crypto in Brazil. So I train the team, and we operate like a professional newsroom. Like we are small. It's kind of we have reference like CoinDesk, the Block, Decrypt, and we are the best in Brazil.
You guys do. I'm not in the business of judging, but you guys do really good work. So I read you guys almost every day, and I really appreciate the work and the depth you all go into. You have a really great team. You have really good. I think your instincts are on point, and anytime I see your byline on an article, I know it's going to be something good that I need to read.
And maybe you should I do a disclosure here? Because in 2021 we sold Portal Bitcoin to Mercado Bitcoin, which is a Binance rival here in Brazil. But all the market know that like they buy the website, they didn't buy like the credibility of the website. So we operated just the same.
Right. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's an important disclosure. So thank you for mentioning that. So maybe to start off, let's talk a bit about kind of what's been going on the last week. Like, what have we learned about this Binance, this investigation into Binance? I think the news broke. I think it was like late last Friday. I believe like April 14th or 15th was the day. And then your team and other reporters in the space have been kind of peeling back the layers of the onion here. But what do we know? What's going on here? Why don't you give us kind of a high level overview?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy when you can see your work like changing a public policy, and that's what happened in this case. The thing is, in July of 2020, like our SEC CVM, they issue and stop order to Binance. They need to stop offering the derivatives products of crypto. And then Binance changed their language. I mean, they changed in the platform the way the people could access this financial product. So if you use like in Brazilian Portuguese, you couldn't access. But then we we tested the platform, and Fernando Martinez wrote a piece it's I mean it's kind of comic in a way. It's a serious job, of course, an excellent reporting, but it's kind of comic because he tried to use the service, and then the customer service told him, "Oh no, you can't use in Portuguese anymore, but you can use in English or in Portuguese from Portugal." So you just change the language, and you could access the system again. And he wrote the story, and it was in the air. And then now we discovered now that the regulators saw this story, and they, whoa, there's something wrong here. And then that's what we found out last week. I mean, the news of this document was brought by InfoMoney. It's from Lucas Gabriel, who worked in the past in Portal, Bitcoin also.
So basically, to summarize here, so Binance was offering derivatives products to Brazilian customers a couple of years ago. But in order to offer that, you basically need to have pre-authorization from the CVM, which they did not have. So the CVM issued a stop order. So they prohibited users from using these products if they were using the Brazilian Portuguese language setting. However, if you just move the language setting to Portuguese from Portugal or to English, and you're in Brazil physically, you can trade these same products basically just by moving the language. And their customer service reps were even like instructing your reporter on like how to do this essentially.
Yeah. Well, Binance told us that it was like a kind of a misbehavior of this customer. It's not the orientation. That was what they said to us.
Okay. And that's one of the questions I have. I'd like to kind of get into a little bit later, is like how much of this is maybe, like just a rogue customer service agent, or, or perhaps, not to speak like condescendingly toward these people or anything, but, sometimes these people aren't like the best trained, or like, they don't necessarily know all the legal, ramifications of what they're doing or whatever. So was this just like a rogue person that was just shouldn't have been doing what they were doing? Or is this more of like a strategic decision? Or is this just kind of like a product loophole that like maybe they didn't realize existed or something? But anyway, we can dive into that a little bit later, I guess. But why don't you tell us a bit? So basically the CVM, they read like your report on this. Basically, they realized that this was happening, and then they began, and then we learned in this document that was released last week, and subsequent documents that your team has uncovered, that there's been a lot more sort of happening behind the scenes. I mean, you published kind of a nice timeline of what's been happening with regards to this investigation since, for about a year now. Why don't you kind of walk through like what we know about the CVM's inquiry into this?
Yeah. So what the document shows is that after our news report, they said, "Whoa, there's something going on here." So in June last year, they sent another notification for Binance, and they sent our Fernando's news story, and then they asked for Binance about what they perceived as irregular, and they asked a list of things like which financial products Binance was offering to in Brazil, a list about customer service, and if it was if it was in Portuguese or not, what kind of controls they were doing, like if they have the user's IP, for example, because you need to know that Binance operates in Brazil in a different way than United States. That's important because in the United States it's like Binance US, and there is lots of restrictions to operate in Binance world. But in Brazil, they don't have Binance Brazil. It's you can access straight Binance world. So, and there is no control of this, of course. And then they ask lots of questions, and I don't know why, but Binance didn't respond to the regulators. That's something a little bit crazy. Just 2 months later, like in August, they answered the regulators. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if the regulators didn't use like the proper channels to reach out Binance, but it was crazy because they missed the time to answer them, and that caused a lot of troubles. Because like we have, for example, an email from Daniel Mangabeira, which is like Binance Latam leader, and he was asking please, please regulators, can we have more time? And they answered, mm-mm, you miss your time, and there's nothing you can do about it. And but now and then I don't know if I'm losing the track here, but then it's kind of a battle of lawyers, right, in these things. And they started to discuss with CVM what can you do if there is something anything of a term of adjustment, and there is something like the specifics that I don't know, but it's awkward because it's in a very strange. They are in a very strange position because the system is still working, right? They still offering the same kind of products. You just need to change the language because a Brazilian.
And they originally came out and denied that this was the case, right? Or that they were saying that this wasn't actually, or what was their, what was their response? I mean, were they saying,
Yeah.
I mean, back in like August of last year, did they come out saying that like this is
Yeah.
not true and we've never offered this, even though it was like you could just go to the website and just try it out and see for yourself?
Yeah, you know, lawyers. It's in August last year. Broadcast Estadão interviewed Mr. Mangabeira, and he said, and Estadão, which is like a big newspaper here in Brazil, they quoted our small niche publication. And they asked, Portal do Bitcoin did a report, a news piece about the offering of derivatives from Binance and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, unfortunately, he said that was, I don't want to be here in like confrontational, space. I'm a journalist. I just want to do my work, but he questioned the veracity of the reporting. And usually, when they try to do this, when companies do this with Portal do Bitcoin, usually they are the people who are wrong. Because when we make mistakes, we issue a correction, right? So show me the mistake, and it's not a problem. We always issue a mistake, correction. Anyway, but that was like in, I don't know, that interview was August 2nd. And like 15 days later, they were discussing with CVM about Fernando's story. Yeah.
So and then from there, it looks like, we know that in December, or like late last year, in December of last year, the CVM then sent this evidence and these materials. We also know that the CVM actually brought in some of Binance's like employees, right,
Yeah.
for testimony, for depoimento, right, like the to a deposition, I guess. And
Because
sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. Because I didn't explain this, but because there is a possible crime being committed here, and because there is a possible crime, CVM, the SEC, they send the documents for our prosecutors in São Paulo, federal prosecutors, and they started to investigate also. And CVM also collected some, as you were saying, right? Some depositions from people from Binance. But this is another thing that is awkward, because until Portal do Bitcoin covered, no one knew the, what was the how Binance was registered here in Brazil. Because here in Brazil they are called like B FinTech. That's the name. And we found out that now the justice system, when customer stuff, they want to get their money back or other stuff like that, they are suing now B FinTech, and the justice uh, are accepting like B FinTech as Binance, and that's why CVM reach out to B FinTech, but it's like sorry.
So the CVM, so BFin, so basically BFintech is like a holding company that they've established here in Brazil, and I think CZ is like one of the directors of BFintech. But basically but it's like, it's not Binance, but it's basically the company that Binance operates in Brazil through. So like, am I understanding that correctly? Where you would have like, so all of Binance is kind of like payment. If there's like payment, like fiat on ramps, on and off ramps, that would go through like the B FinTech entity as well. That would be kind of the, or
No,
how does that?
no, no, no.
No. Oh, so that's different. Okay.
I don't. I need to take care with the words here, but it's no one knows. Kind of, no one knows. Like the thing is, in Brazil, Binance they operate similar to like gambling platforms, right? It's the operation. I'm not saying that is the same. Like the gambling platforms are much more shady than Binance, but still there's some light in the process that we don't know. Like BFintech, we don't know if the money goes by in a BFintech account, because those companies from outside Brazil, they use like kind of payment processors companies. Remember that Binance fought with Capital, right?
Yes.
What Capital did? They were the banking partners for Binance. Like the money went, like the Brazilian money went to Capital. Capital have the deal with the bank, and then the money went to Binance. So there was no Binance in Brazil. Why? Because with this system, they don't need to report to the IRS any movement. That's one of a big topic right here. Will they report their customers? Will they not report? They. It seems that now the recommendation now is that they won't report, but they recommend their clients to report.
Right. And
And
that's a big difference between like the Mercado Bitcoins and the other kind of domestically registered exchanges. They are required by law to like report all their users' activity basically to
the Receita Federal, which is like the Brazilian IRS essentially.
Yeah.
But as an offshore exchange, they're using this kind of this roundabout way, they don't have to report that.
Yeah, it's kind of a loophole in the system, right? Because we kind of can't regulate this system, and
Right.
it's very how can I say, it makes like the competition a kind of unbalanced, because I mean Binance has a big volume. They can offer like um, it's kind of cheaper, right? And you believe that you don't need to report to the IRS. So for a customer, it seems like better.
Yeah. So let's go back to the case here, or the ongoing investigation. So we know that back in December, the CVM reported, or they sent this information to the federal prosecutors saying like we suspect there's evidence. We suspect that there's a possibility of a crime being committed here, which is basically illegally offering derivatives to Brazilian customers without authorization. And then and CVM doesn't have the ability to actually like charge, similar to like the US SEC. They don't have the ability to like charge people criminally. That's you have to hand it over to the Department of Justice, at least from what I understand. And I think it's similar in Brazil, where like the CVM can't like say, they can't like charge Binance with like a criminal offense, but they can refer Binance to these prosecutors basically as the next step. Is that correct?
Yeah, perfect. And that's where where the situation is right now. I mean, the last information we have is from January, I believe, that Binance is trying to offer like a kind of commitment with CVM. There is proposition terms that probably there may be a fine. We don't know how much would be this fine, and they will try to settle on something. And it's Binance. I mean, it's BFintech, which is kind of Binance here in Brazil. And then after this, Binance, how can I say this? Binance ordered, asked for the process to be
like basically keep the documents confidential, right?
Right.
So your all of your document requests like post January, it's a bit murkier to understand what's going on because the CVM has made those documents confidential, right?
I lost the track. We only received the document from the depositions of people that were BFintech administrators.
Got it.
But it's like an office from a lawyer office that does this. Like this guy, it's Bruno Zanata, I believe. He was the same person who opened the Coinbase here.
Oh, the guy opened Coinbase? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's funny. Well, I guess maybe it's a small niche market of crypto lawyers in Brazil. I guess so, a few people to choose from.
No. I believe that his office like has an expertise to open like foreign companies here in Brazil. Maybe I don't know.
Okay.
I could look a little bit better.
Sure.
Probably it's a good story, right?
Yeah, that is an interesting story. That is pretty funny, actually. I didn't know that. And then, so I mean, what do you see as like kind of the most likely outcome here, given where we are? Do you expect like some sort of settlement essentially between Binance and the CVM, where they don't commit to, or they don't necessarily acknowledge any wrongdoing, but it's okay, we're going to pay X amount of reais and we're going to commit to like changing this loophole or fixing this product so it's not available. It's not available anymore. Or do you expect this to actually go kind of full on, down the criminal route here, or to the I mean, maybe another way of framing the question is, do you think Binance just referred this to the federal prosecutors just as a way of trying to force maybe Binance into a settlement somehow?
It's such a hard thing to predict because, like, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in this legal stuff.
Sure.
But from what I can see, like, Binance will kind of try to do what the regulators want, because they want to have like a banking operation here in Brazil. It's not like really banking, it's like a broker. It's called São Paulo, and that's in the table of Brazilian central bank. But it seems like it's called São Paulo, I believe. But it's I don't know where this issue is, but it looks really ugly, right? If you're not complying with regulators' rule.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I how can I say? I can't see how they would fix this, because they would need to have kind of a Binance, officially Binance Brazil, where you wouldn't be able to access the derivatives product. How can they close the loophole? I don't see how. And probably this product is very, very, very lucrative for them,
right?
Because it's by far the biggest market for buying, right?
Yeah. And that's part of the other question. I mean, one of the questions I had originally was how much. I mean, do you think this whole situation where Brazilian users are being allowed to access these products just by changing the language on the app or on the interface? Is this like a strategic sort of like decision, like, hey, we're just going to kind of run with this because it's in the gray area, or do you think this was just more of like an oversight on Binance, like a lack of oversight on Binance's part, where like, oh, we didn't realize that this was actually a loophole,
Yeah.
I mean, how much how much of this is intentional versus just kind of like neglect, I guess, is the question.
The law is subject to lots of interpretations. I believe that it was kind of a decision based on an interpretation. They thought, oh, the law says this. If we change language, we can do it. And it seems that they were right in this decision. Because there is, in the Fernando's news reporting, you can see that there is a kind of a document from CVM which states that, well, they changed the language, it seems okay now. You can see that. But I don't know if the guy didn't. I don't know. The fact is.
So if the CVM said that was, if they changed the language, that's okay. I mean, is the issue here maybe the fact that the customer service representative was encouraging like your reporter to just switch the language to circumvent the prohibition? Is that part of it? Is that maybe the main infraction here?
I don't really know, because maybe there was some change in the inside CVM. Like they saw the thing first. They maybe it was a lack of oversight from the regulator which wrote that document, but maybe it was, I don't know. They saw that it was very, very easy to change the language and access the same product. Maybe they think that probably Binance was making the regulators as fools. And maybe it was like a little bit of everything, right? It's I don't know if it was. We can state that was like every customer service person was helping people to access derivatives. But we can for sure say that they helped our reporting.
Right. So yeah, so it sounds like there's still a lot of unknowns here, and there's this is a pretty gray area, right? That seems there's various interpretations of what they did seems like, on one hand it seems quite clever, and it seems like they had some quite, they are hiring like very, high status, like kind of white collar law firms, right? And the Pinheiro Neto and some of these other, they aren't just going at this like willy nilly, just super recklessly. I think it's fair to give them credit.
Yeah.
Like they've any decision that they're making, they're probably doing some degree of diligence on it.
Yeah, in the beginning, in the beginning, they were a little bit more amateurish. Then Pinheiro Neto, like it's big, right? It's very famous here in Brazil. They work with banks and fintech, and they also hired like a top Uber guy here in Brazil. It's Mr. Mangabeira, which is like very well known for his work at Uber.
Yeah, so they've scaled, so they're definitely like a competent operation, right? So I think that's got to give them credit for that. And it sounds like there's just like a lot of different ways you can interpret this. And I think the purpose of this conversation is not necessarily like rush to a judgment or anything, but just try to understand the facts and some of the reporting that you and your team have done on this, and kind of understand like where we are right now. And obviously Binance is such a big player in the market. And there's obviously like we're seeing this in conjunction with, enforcement and regulatory actions being undertaken against Binance and other parts of the world as well. So I guess that'd be another question for you here is to what extent do you think this is maybe connected or related somehow to some of the other actions that we're seeing as Binance, particularly the US, but also other jurisdictions? Is there a connection here, or is this just why are we finding out all about all this now? I guess is maybe the question. Like when this happened, the referral to the prosecutors was issued 3 months ago. Why are we learning about this now?
Yeah, I think we can. There is a line of story here. One is like CFTC is very important, of course, and our American cousins. We look at what we are doing, and that story was big, right? And after FTX, in the FTX case, there was such all the watchdogs failed, even the media. I love the American media and I hate them, but I like the conflict. But they failed in the Sam Bankman case, and now my feeling is that they won't fail in CZ case. So the news reporting is very aggressive now, and the regulators are also very aggressive. They are looking really deep now. But here in Brazil, what happened was that after the CFTC notification, a reporter from InfoMoney, he had a very good idea, which we should have, but he had. He questioned CVM if there was something happening in Brazil, something new. And he found out that, yes, there was. But it was ongoing before the CFTC stuff. So the story was developing, but just in the bureaucrats' corridors, right? And then this reporter from InfoMoney, he explode.
Yeah. Maybe one final question here, and I'll let kind of get your final thoughts on some of the rest of this case as well. But how did Binance get so big in Brazil in the first place? Because they were kind of late entrants into the market, vis-a-vis like Mercado Bitcoin and Foxbit and some of these other exchanges that have been around since 2013, 14. Binance didn't really set up until like 1920. or 2019, 2020, and from there it was kind of hockey stick growth, right? But how did Binance? I mean, now they're like 75% of the market in terms of volume, right? Especially with FTX collapsing. So how did Binance just achieve this like dominant position in the market?
I believe it's like it's hard to say because how those guys operate. We it's a little bit gray. I mean, let's be honest. No one's to report any shit for IRS, right? That's one thing. I mean, I report, but no one. It sucks. Second thing, there was a very fragile KYC in the beginning in Binance, so it was very easy to move money to create fake accounts there. For example, lots of scams. I mean, the scams in Brazil they go for like all the places, all the exchanges, but some exchanges they are more able to identify and stop the scams. And it seems that in the past, I don't know how it is now, but in the past it was much way easier to flow the money to Binance. And we saw this in so many cases of scams here in Brazil. For example, the how do you say pharaoh in English? The pharaoh, right?
Pharaoh of Bitcoin.
Yeah, pharaoh of Bitcoin. The guy moved like billions, and some of the money went through Binance, for example, like a huge part. Also, they have this payment processor partners, which who are those guys? Like now, they are with Latam Gateway, like the business. The business, now, the biggest crypto exchange in the world. They operate with who is Latam Gateway? Who? I mean, it's like I don't know a 5-person operation. Who are those guys? Where this huge influx of money? Where is the money going? It's so easy. I mean, the crypto market. It's not a crypto. It's not a market made from saints, right? There's a lot of shady actors and shady money. So I don't know. It seems that for a time it was easier to operate there. It seems that Binance is losing a little bit nowadays of market share. I don't remember the numbers now, but it's losing a little bit. People are after FTX. People are, I mean, a little bit afraid. Binance is also like frozen people's account. I know a guy there. He doesn't want to talk on. He's just talking enough. He's like with 100,000 reais in Binance. He just can't withdraw, and I believe that's the thing. Also, by they have like a worldwide book order book, right?
Right.
So it's the slippage is
yeah, that kind of gets into the whole debate over like the asset segregation. In this bit where they have to maintain a separate order book essentially for like different countries, and it affects liquidity and all these things.
Yeah.
Whole other conversation, I guess. But yeah, it's a good point. It's definitely worth noting that's one of the things that they offer that like some of the local exchanges can't. They just don't have the liquidity to be able to offer that. I guess the last question would be, how much. I mean, do you expect this whole incident over the derivatives and the stop order and this investigation? Do you expect this to have any like meaningful impact on Binance's position in Brazil? Like, are regular Binance users in Brazil going to look at this and be like, "Oh shoot, I should stop using Binance," or are they going to just? Is this something that they're going to really care about much, or are they going to be running for the hills, so to speak?
I believe that they are in a difficult position here in Brazil because they need to make money, but they need to show like kind of goodwill with the regulators. And now worldwide, Binance is always reinforcing this message that they are always complying with the regulators. At least this is the message that I'm seeing. But from like, look at the difference from 1 year time. Like last year, CZ was here in Brazil, like a superstar. I believe he told publicly that they would hire like 5,000 people. I don't know. Do you remember this?
It was some absurd number like that, right? Where there's not even five. Like Binance doesn't even have like 5,000 employees like worldwide. Like how
it's that. But anyway, it was a party. He was meeting with like the mayors here and some regulators, and now like it seems they are in trouble. Like, but I believe that what will change the game will be US. US can knock down. Only US can kind of knock down or really change the way Binance operate, and they did it before, like with Binance.
Yeah.
So if it's not probably they will they may get smaller, but I believe they will operate just the same.
Sure. Okay, well, great. Well, thank you so much, Cláudio, for your time today. Really appreciate you coming on here to kind of enlighten us and help us understand the situation. It's definitely a big story, one we're going to be trying to continue to tell and examine from different angles. So, any final thoughts, and what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Twitter, but I'm not I'm not debating and arguing with anyone in Twitter because I'm lazy. I'm also at LinkedIn, which I use a little bit more. You can find us at portaldobitcoin.com. I don't know. It was a pleasure to be here. I mean, my English is a little bit rusty, but I think it's okay. And it's very cool. I really admire your work, and I'm a reader at your newsletter, but I'm like a competitive reader. So I'm counting how many times he quoted Portal de Bitcoin. But
all right, well, it's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah, we'll have to put you and Info Money, and we'll see who can get the most quotes each week. Right, we'll run and count.
Great.
But thank you so much, Cláudio. Really appreciate your time, and looking forward to having you on again sometime soon.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.